4 games without a home run. For most hitters in professional baseball, 4 games without a home run is called Tuesday. It is called a normal week. It is called the ordinary rhythm of a sport that humbles even its greatest players on a daily basis and asks them to return tomorrow and try again. For most hitters, 4 games is not a story. It is barely a footnote. But Shohei Ohtani is not most hitters. And when Shohei Ohtani goes 4 games without a home run, the silence has a different quality. It is noticed. It is tracked. It becomes, in the broadcast booths and the sports pages and the comment sections and the group chats of people who follow him across 2 countries, a question. A low hum of collective wondering that builds quietly with each passing game, each at-bat that ends without the sound everyone came to hear. Is something wrong? Is he adjusting? Is he tired? Is the league catching up? Is this the beginning of something longer and harder than 4 games? The questions are always there when Ohtani goes quiet. They are the price of operating at a level where silence feels like absence, where the standard is so high that not meeting it for 4 consecutive games produces genuine unease in an entire fan base and genuine conversations in opposing dugouts about whether the adjustments they have made are finally, actually working. Tonight, against the Cardinals, Ohtani answered every single one of those questions. Twice. Not with 1 home run, the kind of single, decisive answer that ends a drought and settles a narrative and allows everyone to exhale and move on. With 2. Back-to-back. A solo shot in one at-bat and a 3-run homer in the next, hit with the particular combination of violence and ease that Ohtani produces when he is not just locked in but something beyond locked in, when the preparation and the timing and the physical condition and the mental state have all arrived at the same place at the same moment and produced something that looks, to everyone watching, less like effort and more like inevitability. The losing streak is over. The silence is over. And the Cardinals, who may have spent 4 games quietly believing their adjustments were working, have their answer too. They weren't. Before the home runs, there were 4 games. 4 games that the Dodgers needed more from and did not get, not in the specific form that changes scoreboards and swings momentum and reminds everyone in a lineup that the person at the center of it is capable of making the game feel different in a single swing. 4 games is long enough to produce a narrative. In the compressed, high-volume media environment that surrounds a player of Ohtani's profile, 4 games without a signature moment is sufficient raw material for an entire cycle of analysis and speculation. The numbers get examined. The at-bats get broken down. Theories emerge about mechanical adjustments, about pitch sequences the league has discovered, about fatigue accumulated over a long season, about the particular way opposing pitchers have chosen to attack him in recent outings. Some of those theories are grounded in real observation. Some are the natural product of a media ecosystem that needs content and finds it wherever the gap between expectation and result is widest. Separating the genuine signal from the noise in a 4-game sample is genuinely difficult. The honest answer, in most cases, is that 4 games tells you very little, that baseball's sample sizes are brutal and its short-term patterns are mostly illusions, and that the correct response to 4 quiet games from an elite hitter is patience. But patience is hard when the team around him has been losing. When the Dodgers needed something to change and the person most capable of changing it had been, by his own extraordinary standards, quiet. The losing streak was not entirely on Ohtani. It never is. Baseball is a team sport built on collective contribution, and losing streaks are produced by failures across the entire roster, not the silence of one bat. But there is a reality about what Ohtani's presence does for a lineup, the way it changes what pitchers do, the way it creates opportunities for the hitters around him, the way it shifts the psychological weight of a game simply by existing as a threat. That means his quiet felt louder than any other player's quiet would have felt. The Dodgers needed him to speak. Tonight, he spoke. Twice. And in 4-game terms, twice in one night is not just an answer. It is a statement. The solo home run, his 7th of the season, was the kind of home run that carries a specific emotional weight that multi-run shots sometimes don't. A solo home run is purely personal. There are no runners on base to drive in, no situation to rescue, no teammates whose plate appearances set the table for what you do. It is simply a hitter and a pitcher and one pitch that ends the conversation immediately and completely. In the context of a 4-game silence, a solo home run is the most unambiguous possible statement. It says, the adjustments you made did not work. The sequences you chose, the locations you targeted, the theories your pitching staff constructed about what I would chase and what I would lay off and how my timing had shifted, none of it was sufficient. This pitch, thrown to this location at this velocity, was not a mistake by your standards. And I hit it out anyway. That is what makes the first home run in a drought different from the first home run of a season. It does not just add a run. It resets the entire psychological landscape of the at-bat, for this at-bat, for the next at-bat, for every Cardinals pitcher who will face him for the rest of this series and who now has to reconstruct their plan with the knowledge that the plan they had was not enough. The Dodgers dugout felt it immediately. You could see it, the particular quality of a team's reaction when the player they needed most does the thing they needed most, and the reaction is not just celebration but relief. Deep, genuine, uncomplicated relief. The silence was over. Number 7 was in the books. And Ohtani was rounding the bases with that unhurried trot that says everything and performs nothing. If the solo shot was personal, the 3-run homer was collective. 3 runs changes a game. 3 runs changes a dugout. 3 runs changes the entire calculation that both teams are making about what the next inning requires and what the final score is likely to look like. A 3-run home run is not just a swing, it is a reordering of the game's arithmetic in a single moment, a conversion of a deficit or a close game into something that feels suddenly, decisively different. His 8th of the season. Back-to-back. In the same game where 4 games of silence had produced 1,000 quiet questions about whether something had shifted, whether the league had found something, whether the version of Ohtani that opposing pitchers feared most was temporarily or perhaps more permanently somewhere else. The 3-run homer answered that question with a finality that one home run, however impressive, could not have achieved alone. Because one home run can be explained away. One home run can be filed as an outlier, a fortunate pitch in a fortunate location, a single data point that does not yet constitute a pattern. 2 home runs in the same game, after 4 games of silence, cannot be explained away. 2 home runs is not luck. 2 home runs is a hitter who identified what the pitching staff was doing, made the necessary internal adjustments across the course of the game, and executed against a plan that the Cardinals believed was working well enough to hold him. It was not working. The 3-run homer made that official. And the Dodgers, who had been losing and who had needed something to change, had their change, not just on the scoreboard but in the room, in the feeling that a team carries when the player they trust most has reminded them why they trust him. Losing streaks in baseball have a psychological texture that is difficult to describe from the outside. The losses accumulate not just in the standings but in the atmosphere of a clubhouse, in the way players carry themselves between games, in the quality of the silence in the dugout during difficult innings, in the subtle but real weight that sits on a team that has been trying and failing again across consecutive days. The antidote to that weight is not a speech. It is not a meeting. It is not an adjustment made on a whiteboard in a coach's room. The antidote is a moment, a specific, visible, undeniable moment that happens on the field in front of everyone and says, the losing is over. We remember who we are. Back-to-back home runs from Shohei Ohtani is that moment. It is that antidote in its purest, most concentrated form. Because when the best player on your team ends a personal 4-game drought and a team losing streak in the same game, with 2 home runs in the same night, the message to the clubhouse is not subtle. It does not need to be decoded or interpreted or discussed in the post-game. It is simply felt, immediately, completely, by every player in that dugout who watched it happen and understood what it meant. The streak is over. He is back. And when Ohtani is back, truly back, swinging with that certainty, connecting with that authority, rounding those bases with that quiet confidence that never quite looks like celebration but always looks like someone who knew this was coming. The Dodgers are a different team than they were 4 games ago. Not just because of 7 and 8 on the home run ledger, but because of what those numbers do to the room. What they do to the belief. What they do to the quiet confidence that a team needs to carry into tomorrow and the day after and the long stretch of season that still remains. 4 games of silence. 2 swings. 1 night. The storm that everyone sensed gathering during those quiet games did not dissipate. It arrived. And the Cardinals felt every drop of it.